Hello and welcome back to the MeasurePod. I'm Dara, joined as always by Matthew. How are you doing today, Matthew?
I don't know. I'm okay. I'm in I have these recurring peaks and troughs of existential dread based around various announcements and AI and tinkerings. And I think I'm at one of my peaks currently.
It's all fine.
Good. Thank you. I needed that.
It's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
Good.
It's fine.
I needed that.
The end.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm a bit jealous. I can hear the obvious and easily identifiable sound of a 3D printer behind you, which probably won't come out in the final cut, the final edit. I'm such a professional. I know all these terms. But yeah, you've got a bit of 3D printing going on in the background, haven't you?
Yeah, sorry about that. I started it earlier today and thought it'd be done, and it isn't. And it's, what did you describe it as? The sound of a buzzsaw in the background?
It did sound a bit like a buzzsaw.
I printed this. It's a little mask for the listeners. But yeah, I started to up my nerdiness for the 3D printer, which I'm quite enjoying.
Yeah. But listen, fair enough. As I said, I'm just jealous. I don't have a 3D printer. So, it's stopped.
It's stopped now. It's
finished. It's finished.
Yeah.
It heard me. Right. So I think we've got a bit of news today, haven't we? A few bits and pieces to go through.
Yeah.
We've been, I think we can make this little confession. I think our listeners will probably empathize. We were struggling to figure out what happened when, and there's so much news coming out at the moment. And it's like, hang on, have we actually not talked about that yet? No, I'm sure we did. No, we didn't. So time is all kind of blurring together. The updates are all blurring together. Doesn't help that everything's called basically the same thing or variations of the same thing. And then people keep changing the names of things as well. So it is pretty difficult to keep up with everything that's happening especially in the AI space at the moment.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about us just forgetting and killing off companies, but the one we forgot about was OpenAI's held an entire dev day. We nearly missed that off our roster because of so much other stuff happened that we just forgot about it.
Yeah, it was only a week ago or something, and we both tuned in live for the keynote. We were chatting about it on Slack. We wrote a bunch of notes and then completely forgot that it even happened.
That's modern day memory. I rely on AI to remember things for me now, not myself.
I don't know if you do this, but I look at the GA4 release notes just to calm myself down every now and again. When I get a little overwhelmed, I just go back to the GA release notes and think, that's a little bit more like it. Nice and calm.
Feels nice pace. Yeah.
So where do we start then? So you've mentioned OpenAI Dev Day. I guess that's as good a place as any to start.
Yeah, I can reel off. I don't think all of them are in-depth discussion worthy, but I can reel off what they talked about. But essentially, a couple of things are adding to the API. ChatGPT Pro is now in, GPT-5 Pro is now in the API, and Sora 2, which we'll probably talk a bit about in a bit more detail later, because that
love it, big fan,
terrifying and gross in equal measure. Is that's now in the API. They are releasing loads of new stuff with Codex. So the Codex is like their SDK for devs and building things, and they've released like Slack integrations and all these kinds of things. But the two main ones, the two sort of ones that were in the keynote, apart from the Codex was in the keynote, but the two main ones that I think Dara and I globbed onto was Agent Kit and apps in GPT. Catchy name. So where do you want to start out of those two?
Because you said it last, let's go with the catchy name. And even though it's not a very catchy name, this was probably the most eye-opening one for me anyway. I thought it was basically it's ChatGPT becoming a browser, an OS, everything all rolled into one, really.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. So in a nutshell, in case people haven't seen this, they're making essentially an app ecosystem within ChatGPT that you can just. The example was like, say, booking.com. They just typed in, hey, booking.com, I want to go here, blah, 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 blah. And it just automatically pulls that app into that context. And then it returned and rendered like nice interactive modules is the wrong word. Elements within the chat window. So you could sort of link all these things together. They had stuff around travel. Spotify, I think, was in there. They've got a set of apps, which I might be able to quickly find if I'm quick. That are coming soon are things like All Trails, DoorDash, OpenTable, Peloton, TripAdvisor, Uber. So you can imagine just sort of chatting in natural language to, I'm going here, I want to do this, book me an Uber, book me a hotel, and never really leave the chat interface was the big thing, I think. Like you don't go to the website, you just live in there.
Why would you ever need to go anywhere else? My
Exactly.
first thought on this, it makes me think back to the Anthropic, I can't remember what it was called now, but their browser thing. I'm going to call it a thing, use a very technical term thing.
Like the Chrome autopilot.
The autopilot, that's the one, Chrome autopilot.
Yeah.
And how they were both being quite transparent, which we both were kind of fans of, seeing how they were willing to share, what wasn't working or what some of their concerns were. But they were doing it in a really closed, not even in a beta. They just had a very small number of trusted testers. And I do wonder, our OpenAI just we're just not going to worry about that. Let's just get people using agents within apps within agents, whichever way around it is, and not worry too much about it. Because this is where there's going to be an increased risk of prompt injections and things like that.
Well, I don't know. Well, presumably there's some of that. I mean, I think there's always a risk with when you're putting it to an LLM that it's going to make something up or hallucinate. I think they're building apps specifically for. So I think it happens within there rather than going off to the side, but I might be wrong. It'd be interesting. I mean, I think we both said at the time, like it feels like they put all their numbers up on the stage when they were announcing this, and it was like 800 million weekly users or something, and it felt a bit like if you're a website owner or some sort of business that you have to do it, you have to go and make an app for ChatGPT because it's like Apple almost when they created their the App Store for the iPhone in the first instance, and then it became the thing. You had to have an app.
You got to be in there
on the App Store.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, I don't think it's available in the UK yet.
No, this is a theme. This is a slightly frustrating theme with all of these. It was the same with the instant checkout or whatever. Again, I just can't. Yeah, we talked about it a week ago, but I know the other thing was agentic commerce protocol, but they had another name for instant checkout or something as well. That was the same. It's US and Canada.
Yeah.
So they don't.
Which is another aspect to keeping you in there, isn't it? You can purchase on there. You can do everything within reason within there. You get information, ask questions, do some research, presumably chain together apps, trip planner, book a hotel, book a taxi at the other side.
I mean, amazingly powerful and useful, but it makes me think of, do you remember when Google Maps had to start adding the messaging because people were basically walking out into traffic and walking off cliffs,
driving into rivers.
Yeah. And they had to say, please do make sure you actually look at where you're going.
Yeah.
Like the coffee cups when they say caution, contain hot liquid. It's like, I think they're going to have to put something like that in LLMs because never mind prompt injections, it's people themselves are probably the bigger risk where they're just going to be like, yeah, just book me a holiday, and it'll, go and book them a £50,000 luxury holiday, and they'll be, the bank will be ringing them up saying, sorry, where's the money you owe us? So I think there's going to have to be some, it's that double-edged sword. We talk about this a lot, don't we? Where the utility of these things is undeniable, but how much of your own individual responsibility do you want to hand over to a computer?
Yeah, and I think the answer to that is for most people will be a lot.
Absolutely, me included.
Yeah, I mean we've had the discussion a little bit with a little bit of discussion with this with Brian Clifton a few weeks ago, where he was more of the opinion that people were pulling back, and my argument was they are with the current technology, but I don't know if that quite takes into account that this stuff will get better the more it knows about you. I don't think marketing necessarily does, other than you getting more relevant ads. This stuff will get meaningfully more impactful the more it knows about you. Yeah, and that's a tricky privacy conversation to have, I suppose.
Definitely, it's like the privacy aspect has become like 3D chess now rather than just regular old-fashioned chess. 4D chess, maybe. I don't know. 5D chess. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, we're all I think we've said it, we're going to just hand over everything, all of our information, secrets, history, everything, just so we don't have to use different
details.
Desktop apps. Yeah, just the convenience of being able to do everything in one place outweighs any privacy concerns I could possibly have.
Yeah. Yeah, I had very little in the first place, and now
I've got.
Now I can order. Now I can order an Uber by typing it.
I could I could dictate it. I don't even have to. Who types?
Yeah, true. Whisper flow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not a
lovely
sponsor
times.
of the podcast. If you
We-
listen in Whisperflow.
We do need to start asking some of these companies to sponsor us, although not the ones that we're trying to take down. They probably won't want to sponsor us.
Yeah, but so the ones we've taken down are like ChatGPT. I think they'd be really scraping the barrel if they were coming to the Measure Pod for exposure, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe. Okay, so what else? What else was at OpenAI Dev Day?
The other big one was the agent kit. So this is like drag and drop interface that you can chain together, sort of build out little chat agents that you can deploy on your site or whatever. Just it has a very sort of Zapier or N8N type interface, pointing what do you call it, like a graphical UI that you can just sort of drag and drop and point to different things. If else is, you can point to vector stores, you can do all sorts of stuff, and it can take people off in different directions depending on what they're asking, which is all very cool, very interesting. The one thing that did strike me with that is Google has had that hidden away in Vertex AI for a while, but it's just not that accessible or user friendly. I have found, I think it's Agent Builder and Agent Kit, like these various tools that exist in there, but it does feel like OpenAI just has done this stuff potentially because they don't have the baggage, but just done them in a much more user friendly way than Google sometimes. Maybe different markets they're aiming at as well, I suppose, but it was just something that stood out to me.
Yeah, you said that to me at the time, and I hadn't known that, which kind of proves your point, really. I think, Google, it might be that it's different. They're aiming at different markets. You're right, because, it's not like Google don't have a track record in making very accessible products. Like, just look at GA. They made a completely universally accessible analytics tool that was, that's on most websites that still exist now, for as long as websites exist, which is probably another week or two. So, but for some reason, they do have some of this functionality in Vertex AI, and it's just not, people don't know about it. So,
I reckon it's, they're going at enterprise or medium-sized business as who they're servicing, and OpenAI might be going for the every person who has a tiny business or a tiny business and up. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think you might be right. Yeah. And then this is again where the names get confusing, isn't it? So this is Agent Kit, and then within Agent Kit, I think you've got Chat Kit, which is this kind of, you can use a version of ChatGPT as like a module, or you can put that inside your own app or agent. Customize it and whatever.
Yeah, and that's not to be confused with any other agent or kit.
No.
Or KitKats.
Yeah.
Or all the other things that the other companies are releasing that all sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
Or slightly different.
Yeah, but it did look cool, Agent Kit, at least in the demo. But, as always, these demos are like a very, very pre-rehearsed. I think it was like, I'm going to build this in, what did she do it in, 8 minutes or 7 minutes or something? And
but it was a lot of components were already made.
Totally. It was like, she did a good job of pretending she was nervous about it, but actually it was obviously very well rehearsed.
Yeah.
But
I will give them credit for the lack of clipboard usage compared to Google's. Google's was so heavy clipboard, and then maybe that's part of the reason why we didn't see like the data engineering agent released for another 6 months from when they announced it, because it wasn't actually ready. But they did just seem to be typing. Maybe they just practiced before to make sure they got the wording exactly right.
I don't know. If I was to give them any advice, I'd say use Whisperflow, but there we go.
Doesn't look cool though.
No, it doesn't. That's true. But you're right, though. They didn't have let me just quickly do this prompt, and then suddenly this block of text lands in, and you're like, I'm pretty sure you just copy and pasted that.
Yeah.
So they were the two biggies, weren't they? I think they were probably the ones you did.
They are.
You did mention Sora too in that, so maybe that's where we should go next.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want a palette cleanser first, or do you want to go straight into Sora 2?
Let's just dive into the slop head first.
Oh, I don't know where to begin with this one. This is probably part of
it's keeping you up at night.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's another video model, first and foremost. Similar but a lot better than Google's. Oh, I forgot what Google's was called now.
Exactly. Who even cares?
Yeah. VO3, so it can generate sound and images, and they're very realistic to the point where a few of them have crossed the uncanny valley for me now, and I can't tell which is frightening.
Yeah.
But they've wrapped this whole thing up in a TikTok for slop, essentially. So it is a
TikSlop.
TikSlop. It's a social media platform, essentially, where you can generate videos. You have friends. You can generate videos of you and your friends doing various things, and there's all sorts of stuff coming out of it that I've seen online. Of the one that affected me was there was a news. Someone had stitched together all of these videos they created. That was like a news bulletin from that could be from anywhere. It was essentially the zombie apocalypse, but real, actual news bulletins, and it all just looked so real. I didn't think a zombie apocalypse was happening, just to be clear, but I did think for the rest of the day, everything I saw, I had this weird feeling in the back of my head, like, is this real?
Yeah.
And it was a very strange feeling of like not trusting anything I saw. That was like, that might not be good.
But it is going to be like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, because when the real zombie apocalypse happens, you're going to just dismiss it and think, oh, here we go, just more AI slop.
Yeah. There's so many moral, and I don't know where to begin. What have you seen of the videos and things that have come out of it? Have you seen much?
I had a look at that. I mean, I'm really reluctant to. I mean, I've never consciously gone on TikTok for this very reason, and they are real videos. At least some of them are. I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
You could get into the definition of what constitutes real, because I think some of the stuff on TikTok you could argue isn't really real either. But I kind of intentionally stay clear of it because I just don't want to get sucked into something like that. So I'm really wary of this as well. So I haven't gone into the slop beyond just dipping my toe in for safety reasons. But even having not gone in maybe as deep as you did, I'm now doubting things to the point where you, using your 3D printer, created some awards for a hackathon that the company did last week. And you showed them to me on a video call, and I didn't believe that they were actually real. I thought you were using some kind of AI video to like a hologram on your hand. And I was thinking, no, they're not. You didn't actually make them. And lo and behold, they were actually real. So
they were real.
So yeah. I'm just doubting things in general now and thinking, if I don't see it in real life, even then, how can I be sure?
Yeah, I saw an interesting take of some content creators, and there's a guy called Casey Neistat or something along those lines. He's a famous vlogger, and he kind of laid out this timeline of when people first started creating video to now, and essentially saying the walls, the barrier to entry, the resistance to create has just sort of been evaporating away from, say, film camera to digital, and digital to handheld to mobile phones to platforms like YouTube. YouTube, at least, it democratized it enough that people could create things, but there was still a level of sort of creativity involved. But at the point where all you need, and maybe TikTok is a level down from that, where it was just very short, algorithmically surfaced nonsense. And then now when it just needs to be text written, the barrier to entry has essentially evaporated.
Yeah.
So the level of crap that's going to come out of that, realistic looking or not, is going to be pretty unprecedented and could have a pretty deep-seated and fundamental effect on the internet's future and what that looks like down the line.
Well, you could almost effectively create a multiverse by saying, I want to create this video, but do variations based on change the person's hair color, change what's in their hand, change this, change that, to every different possible combination. And the internet will basically just become a multiverse of slop.
People are already doing it with historical figures, and I've seen some fairly distasteful alterations of MLK's speech, and some stuff with Michael Jackson stealing people's chicken in restaurants, just bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
That people were already believing stuff before, ridiculous, outlandish things before this. Now they've got video evidence to back up their, prejudice views that somebody's created using MLK or RFK or whoever else.
Is truly terrifying. Yeah.
This one could be a podcast in of itself, I think, but and maybe it will be. But yeah, I mean, the good news is that we could probably stop doing this soon and just prompt it.
Yeah, we could just
podcast.
We could just yeah. I mean, yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's. I've had enough. We can't talk
Palate
about
cleanser.
Sora. Yeah, we need to move
Yeah.
away. We need to move away from this. Trying to think of news that isn't creepy, because the other one that I was going to go to is this friend.com, but that's not a palate cleanser, so we might come back to that one. I've said it now.
I think it's a palate cleanser in that it's vaporware that will ultimately. So what it is
it even
what do
real?
you want to
though?
say what it is?
Well, it says the name. Like you wouldn't pay $1.8 million for the domain name if it wasn't what it says on the tin.
Is that where most of the investment went? Is the domain friend.com?
Yeah, apparently they raised $2.5 million and they spent 1.8 of that on the domain name friend.com. So it's like, I don't know, is it even real? It's like a necklace that you wear that's a little AI friend. And even their own website, which should be marketing it as a useful thing, seems to be suggesting loads of creepy use cases for it. So I don't know, is it a joke or is it a real?
I think it's real. Yeah, I saw a YouTuber like taking it out of a box and interacting with it the other day, but I don't think it's like I've already fallen victim to one of these things in the form of the Rabbit R1.
The Rabbit R1, yeah.
But it's these attempts at a new form factor with AI, isn't it? I think the Rabbit R1 suffered because it could have been an app and probably still can be an app, and also the big frontier models now are building stuff like Agent Kit and apps in GPT are kind of what that was promising and striving to do in computer use.
Yeah.
You had the Humane AI pin that had the little weird projector on it that you showed on your phone, which
like
that's gone bust.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it for the idea that I could shape one like a Star Trek communicator, but apart from that was it. So yeah, I think it's just that, and it will very quickly go out of business.
Well, I mean, it looks
probably
ridiculous. I don't know if this is just like the prototype, but why would they have the prototype in their marketing material? But it's like, it looks like
because they spent all the marketing budget on the domain.
That's true. They don't have any money left to make the thing, but it's like a big pendant that hangs around your neck. And they're like, I had to laugh, right? So I just, out of curiosity, I just had a little look through the website, and there's an FAQ down the bottom. And yeah, okay, it's not like crazy expensive. It's $129. I'm not saying that's not a significant amount of money, but it's not crazy. First FAQ question: where are my memories stored? All memories are encrypted by your friend's circuit board. If your friend is lost or damaged, they are inaccessible forever.
Right.
Not great. Question two:
I can't imagine you getting a huge amount of memories in there either, considering it's like the size of a 2p coin or something.
Yeah, and if it's not backed up or anything, then how big could it be? Question two: is my friend waterproof, splash resistant, not swim proof? So, if you're out on a particularly rainy day, if you live in the UK or Ireland or anywhere else,
don't get attached.
Don't get attached to your friends. So
it's always been my rule.
Yeah, I think I'll keep my $129 and spend it elsewhere.
Yeah, there's going to be. I mean, I was about to say there's going to be a continuous search for the right form factor. I worry that Meta has figured it out, because as regular listeners will know, I don't want Meta to win this particular AI race. But I think since the last time we spoke, they've released their glasses that actually have
Ray-Ban glasses,
an interface in them now, like a full color screen that people can, and it's got AI built into it and stuff. That does feel like a good bet potentially. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. I don't know, but yeah.
There's the Johnny Ive Sam Altman collab.
Yeah, mystery.
Yeah, still waiting to hear if anything happens with that.
Just a triangular phone or something.
Probably. Yeah, and everyone will buy it for £2,000 or whatever it's going to be. Maybe it could be a pyramid you just carry around with you. A small pyramid, 2 or 3 feet tall. Not that big.
Yeah, but it's got all the model inbuilt on board.
Yeah. We'll see what happens to that one. But I'm going to give friend.com a miss. And this episode was sponsored by friend.com.
That's a no.
What else we got? So, we can confirm. We can desalt a piece of news. So we shared the rumor that 5chan might be buying DBT, and it turns out they're merging.
Yes.
Which I think means they're buying them.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Yeah, the language very much is they're merging into one company, but and we talk about this today, by the way, in today's podcast, so we will be referencing the fact that there might be a merge, but it has happened when we're recording the introduction. But yeah, they are merging. to something like 600 value, a company with a combined ARR of 600 billion or something.
Million, I think. Yeah. Annual recurring revenue of 600 million.
Yeah, million. Sorry, not billion.
Yeah. But it's substantial, isn't it?
With a customer base of well over 10,000 customers, that feels low. Was that companies?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, apparently the apps, as soon as they remain the same. But so, right now, and I imagine this is what a lot of companies say when they merge. There's probably a very set thing you have to say, but Fivetran, DBT, community will remain as completely separate, and they'll still be striving towards their roadmaps or whatever they're wanting to build.
Yeah.
But the real excitement is what we can build together. That's what they say in their press release.
I mean, you've got me excited.
Yeah. I don't believe much of what I will read in a merger press release. Like they've got to try and put out fires and worries about what the merge means and things. I think there's still an interesting thought about that independence of DBT kind of going away.
Yeah, I think that's be interesting to see whether that actually has an impact or not, because obviously the kind of vibrant DBT community, and it was the original in the space, but I don't know, maybe things have changed since then. Maybe people won't care as much about that. These things happen, don't they? Companies merge, they get bought, but we'll see. And then as a final piece of news, maybe I've forgotten something, like we almost forgot Dev Day, but Google, in true Google fashion, have decided to change the name of something. So Agent Space is now Gemini Enterprise.
Yes.
Or is part of Gemini Enterprise.
Yeah, I can't quite tell, which is in true Google fashion.
I asked Gemini.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What did Gemini say?
I'll tell you when I open up the tab. Yes, Agent Space is rebranded to Gemini Enterprise. This is more than just a name change. It represents a significant expansion of Google's AI-powered enterprise offerings. And then it goes on to give a breakdown. Unified platform made by Google agents, no-code workbench, deeper workspace integration, enhanced multimodality, centralized governance and marketplace, and so on. But can we believe this? Because it's come from AI, so maybe it's...
Yes. I'm reading the marketing spiel, I kind of got a feeling there's more workspace stuff in there.
Yeah.
The really annoying thing, and going back to our AI leaderboards.
7 months ago or something.
Yeah, exactly. But so OpenAI, all the stuff we mentioned, can't access it. Google Enterprise released and talked about however long. This is off the back of Agent Space that we still haven't really managed to get into. I went to sign up to it yesterday. We'll let you know.
Yeah,
when the space
don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah, it's like, for God's sake. Sometimes I don't want to live in America, but it'd be nice just to.
It might be worth it.
Over their announcements.
Yeah, just sign up for things and
yeah, it is frustrating, but it does look interesting. I can see it being just being able to join all those things up. I think you can build agents in there. You've got obviously easy OAuth access to various components, knowledge, a centralized knowledge repository for organizations, which could be really useful from just a business perspective, but from a coding perspective. So it does look good if I can ever get in it and have a look at it properly.
I guess it does bulk out workspace, doesn't it? It's like they really are gunning for these enterprise accounts, which they like to be able to bolster on all the AI capabilities and the power of the cloud behind it as well. It's they're
it seems so obvious, really, that they would, if you're in a doc and you're typing away at something, essentially it's the ultimate form of Clippy from old Microsoft Word, where it could just say, oh, you're writing a scope about this. You've also written these 5 scopes previously. Would you like to blah, 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 and pull some of that in? Or you're doing this and you've received this email, just pulling all that information together and making it more useful. It seems like an obvious sort of dream. And maybe that's what this is. I don't know.
I have to admit, I got slightly distracted there thinking about Clippy.
I thought you looked a bit, you wandered off in your head.
I did, yeah. Oh, Clippy. What a guy.
Awesome. Useless, annoying assistant there. So
so
like,
useless.
What were they trying to do? Maybe they just wanted to pretend they had AI back in 1994, but they didn't.
They were trailblazers.
Yeah.
We just didn't understand what Clippy was offering.
Never mind Copilot, Microsoft. Bring back Clippy as your assistant.
Clippy. Yeah.
The one other thing I saw, and I'll do this very quickly because I've
a lot of news this week.
Saltying for a while. Gemini 3.0.
Yes.
Seems like it's imminent. Or whether they're going to call it Gemini 3.0, I don't know. But another Google model is doing the rounds in various early testing and comparison playgrounds and things. We say this every time. It looks very powerful from what people are seeing. The example I saw, someone tried to ask ChatGPT 5, Sonnet 4.5, and Gemini 3.0. I did that in air quotes for anyone who's listening, to just make Windows, like a one-shot attempt at creating a Windows operating system. I believe that's what it was doing anyway. It was kind of truncated video. And Gemini 3.0, it was pretty much Windows that it spat out the other end, which was pretty impressive. The other two were funky looking, not Windows things. Take all that with a pinch of salt. Just some random thing I saw on a LinkedIn feed, but this is something new, so that's fine. But yeah, the predictions have always been that Google would be leading the model race by the end of this year.
Yeah, Mark Edmondson
Things are to be
thought
believed,
that, didn't he?
Yeah. So there's rumors that October 22nd. I'll chuck it out there because if it is October 22nd, I might actually get in ahead of that prediction this time. So I've done 3 other predictions that have all been kind of true, but the podcast came out after they happened, so it just made me look like I was.
Yeah, and they weren't true until you went back and re-recorded.
Yeah, edited it.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not that impressed with the Windows thing because they made Super Mario Brothers in Excel years ago. So I mean, whatever.
That's true. Yeah. Don't bother.
Yeah, is that what they call progress?
What about Super Mario 64 in Excel? Come on, guys.
Now, exactly. There you go. Okay, that's a wrap for a kind of quite a busy news week, really. So our guest today is a second timer on the MeasurePod, Johan van der Werken. When he was on before, he talked to us about his kind of learning platform, I guess you'd call it, which was GA for BigQuery, which had a lot of resources around kind of SQL scripts and various bits and pieces for working with the GA4 data in BigQuery. And his focus now is on GA for Dataform. So it was good to have him back on. It was quite a while since he was on the time before, but it was a good chat, catching up with what he's working on now and getting some of his thoughts on our favorite themes. So, how AI is going to disrupt or not disrupt everything or nothing.
Yeah, particularly satisfying answer to the next 2 years as well, I found.
Different answer.
Different answer.
Yeah. Very interesting. A nice little setup there. You're going to make people listen to the whole episode now to find out what he says.
I'm really getting the hang of this.
All right, enjoy. Joining us on the MeasurePod today for the second time, we have Johan van der Werken. So I had to look this up, but Johan, when you were on previously, it was episode number 72. And that was back in March 23. So it was 2.5 years ago. But we're really excited to have you back on. So welcome back to the MeasurePod.
Thanks. What episode is this? Like 100 something?
Oh, now you've
put us on the spot there.
Yeah, now you've asked a difficult question.
This will be our 131st.
Wow.
So you're around about the halfway point, give or take. And obviously the world has changed dramatically in that time.
It did. So we're talking 2023 when I was last on then, right?
Yeah, March 23. Yeah. So that time we talked a lot about GA for BigQuery, but you've got a new project these days, which is GA for Dataform.
Yep.
So before we get into that, maybe it's worth just, I know a lot of our listeners have obviously listened from the very beginning and they will have heard your intro before, but maybe there's some newer listeners who don't know who you are, Johan. So would you mind giving just a bit of an intro to yourself, a little bit about your background leading us up until what you're doing today?
Yeah, no problem. So I was just thinking while you asked the question, I'm not sure I know who I am, but that's another, that's for another moment. So yeah, I'm Johan. I'm 43 at the moment. I live in the Netherlands, close to Utrecht. I've been in the digital analytics community for about 15 years now, I guess. Used to be a journalist before that, but that's a long, long time ago when data journalism didn't exist. Otherwise, I would probably end up there, still thinking about it once in a while to do that. Yeah, so I started at a digital marketing agency. For me, it was a career change. So I was open to basically anything involving the skills that I had in my backpack. So at that time, I could pick between web analytics and technical SEO. Could have gone either way. I ended up in the web analytics team.
You made the right choice.
I don't know. SEO is dead, right?
So I hear. Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That version of it is anyway.
Yeah. So I think Timo, the show, just posted an article, Digital Analytics is Dead. So I don't know what's the better choice. But anyway, so I started really at, tagging, Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, dashboarding, back then mainly in Data Studio. A lot of it was powered by spreadsheets, Google Sheets. So I started learning every possible Google Sheets function there was to automate stuff, basically. And eventually the data sets got bigger and bigger. We had some enterprise clients. So those Google, especially Google Analytics 360 clients, had access to the BigQuery export. It was still in the days of universal analytics, of course. And so that was my entry to BigQuery and in general data warehouses and everything, data transformation was a complete new world for me. So first I treated it as a bigger spreadsheet. And from there I learned really a lot. And I was focused most on building dashboards and automating stuff for our clients. Then I became very interested in that Google Analytics export. I searched for information. I learned SQL, but there was so little content on that. So I started to write about it. Eventually that led to my own platform, GA4, BigQuery.com. First, it only contained universal analytics, but then when analytics web and app or app and web, what later became GA4 came out, I grabbed that domain name, which was not a bad choice in hindsight. And that platform became like the go-to place for any information about the Google Analytics export. And please note, this was before LLMs, right? There was a lot of demand. Nowadays, I think you can use practically any LLM to get you started. And still, it's questionable what the result will be, So we decided, and lately I've been partnering with Balázs Vanya from Hungary. He's from Marketing Lens, which is an agency in Hungary. And we partnered up to keep the platform going. We are broadening the scope more to BigQuery, Dataform as a whole, also including the Google Ads, data, and that kind of stuff to make it more relevant, both to keep you updated about everything that's going on, because it's a lot. And we also have a newsletter, so you can sign up for free. You'll get a monthly newsletter with, I think, almost every valuable article that has come out that month. And there's also a premium section where you will find more in-depth tutorials and that kind of stuff. So the platform still lives. It still has an audience. I still think it's a good addition to every resource you can find for free nowadays, especially because, LLMs need to be trained on something and it cannot figure out stuff by itself, at least not in this particular niche, I guess. And the Google Analytics exports and the Google Ads exports are very, very complex. There's a lot of in and outs you have to know to deal with it. And then also when it comes to the automation part, there's a new thing on the horizon, and that's Dataform. And that's probably what brings me here, I guess.
I think it is. But before I'm just really curious, because you mentioned that the audience at least was starting to decline on GA for BigQuery because of the introduction of LLMs. But just at the end there, you kind of suggested at least that there is still something that platform is offering that maybe you can't get from LLMs. Do you think is that the case? If somebody had the right initiative, could they just use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to get what they could get from GA for BigQuery? Or do you think there is still something that a platform, and actually, I'm probably kind of thinking more broadly even than just BigQuery,
Sure.
and maybe just training material and knowledge in general. Do you think there is a place for learning platforms still?
Yeah, definitely. So that's maybe a good bridge to another project of mine, which is the course I built for the second time for Team Simar, which is a learning platform by Simar and Mari Ahava, well known in the industry. And that shows there is still demand. We just released like a revamped, completely new series of courses, like very large courses more than 100, 110 videos, I guess, hours and hours of material. It's all manually recorded, no AI involved, So very old fashioned, I would say, purely based on my experience and Simo's experience. And what I do there is open the screen. You see me clicking in the interface, building queries, explaining from the very beginning of the first lines of SQL until very complex, attribution stuff, more complex queries, and a new course that we added, which is really different from the first time we did that, is a course fully about integrations and automation. And that is really a topic that is still I would say the entry level is esteemed quite high from most people from a marketing background. I'm not sure they could do it on their own just by using LLMs. And the demand we see for the course is the proof that we are right. Because we were a bit, trade is a big word, but is there still demand? And I think for now, we proved that there is still demand for high qualitative courses and learning materials.
I suppose people who don't, describing the sort of length of the journey you take people on in that course from first click to complex attribution, a novice it's all about that domain knowledge thing, isn't it? That we keep saying is going to be the last island in all of this sort of stuff that's getting followed by LLMs. People don't know the questions to ask in the first place. Right. You can have a box that can just give you any answer you could possibly want. But if you don't know the right things to ask to get you the skills you need, then that's those curated domain specific pieces like the website and like the course. Surely, at least for now, that feels like there's still a place, you would hope.
Definitely. Yeah. That's what we're seeing. Yeah. So at the same time, and that's, I don't know, probably you were going to ask for it, but I was thinking a lot about, automation, and then Dataform came around the corner. So basically a way to automate different scheduled queries. That's how you can summarize it. We don't have to worry about the order of queries to go from completely raw data to a data set that is aggregated at the right level for your dashboards. It has data quality checks and everything. So that tool came around the corner, integrated in Google Cloud projects. And then I was like, okay, am I going to automate the stuff I write about on GA4 BigQuery? And am I cannibalizing on my own, what do I need to do with this? And that was an interesting time. I guess I figured that out in the last couple of years.
So what was your journey then with Dataform? Did you just see it appear and then immediately you just saw its benefit? I mean, I know you mentioned very early on that you were always looking at automations and augmentations. Did you see the benefit of it straight away and just delve straight in, or was it a bit of a slower process?
So what really helped me is that, in the meantime, I was still employed. So my last employment, so I've been a freelancer for now 2.5 years now. But before that, I'm not quite sure the last time we spoke. Maybe I was still employed, or maybe just became a freelancer at that point. But it was in 2023. I was working at a large Dutch bank. They had Google Analytics and, Google Ads and that kind of stuff, but everything else was in AWS. So I was not in the BigQuery or Google Cloud environment at all. It was AWS. And so for data transformation, we used dbt, and that's basically Dataform, but then gender agnostic, I would say.
For now.
For now. There are some rumors that Fivestrand wants to acquire them. But still, we use dbt Core, which is like an open source thing. And that's basically that was a revolutionary tool. And it was not only a tool, it was also, I would say, a movement almost. It was a way of working. And that really opened up a lot of possibilities for me. And I learned so much about, data transformation in a broader context. Because I've always been in the data transformation. I've always worked in that field, I would say, because what you do in a Google Sheet using formulas is also data transformation in my view. But this was more in a structured way, also with data quality checks, documentation, everything. So when I know Dataform already existed, it was just a competitor of GPT at the time, but then Google eventually acquired them, integrated it in Google Cloud. And then I was like, oh, 101 is 3, that moment of realization. So, of course, I started experimenting with it right away. I first thought, okay, I can just create a bunch of tutorials for BigQuery.com and that's it, right? And then eventually I went for the first time to Superweek, the Digital Analytics Conference, also in Hungary. Matt was there, not that year, I guess.
No, I think the year before, I think was when you... Yeah.
So this was early 2024. Then I met a couple of other guys there, some I already knew. And we were at a presentation of a Google employee that was presenting an open source repo they built on GitHub. I think it was called G4 Dataform as well, something like that, G4-Dataform, something like that. It still exists. And was basically a way to deal with the G4 BigQuery export using Dataform. But it was very basic. But it was the same idea was already working in my head. And when we attended that session, we were like, okay, this is one of those unofficial Google experiments. They release it and they will never look back. And that's exactly what happened. So we looked each other in the eye and I was like, hey, we can do this. We can do it better. And, make it the standard for the industry because Google will probably never say never, but I think they will not go all in on this. So, because they're moving on to a next, probably AI related thing.
Yeah, I was probably on the cusp of them changing everything to be LLM focused.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So basically what that solution did was flattening event table to a session table, more or less, some attribution. It was quite basic, but it was a good starting point. So we got inspired and the guys we teamed up with 4 other guys. We wanted to release it as a, community project. And that's what we did. We made a product of it. But the main difference or the main addition basically is that we also created an installer. So it's a user interface. You log in with your Google account, you do a couple of clicks and your whole Dataform repository is set up. The code is there. If you want, we can already run it for the first time, workflow, and boom, you have a ready to use Google Analytics session table, flattened event table, and also transaction table. There you go, free. And that's what we have now. We released that about a year ago, I think. We have, of course, we released it using the domain name g4dataform.com that I already claimed because I had some experience in how important domain names like that can be. The usage is quite good. So we have a lot of users, also big companies using our core version, as we call it. So it's a freemium model. We have a core version that always will be free. That's very generous because it does not only flatten your tables, but also handles incrementality. And it's another big advantage of using Dataform is that you don't have to recalculate the historical data over and over again like you probably would do with scheduled queries. When you ask LLMs, they will make you do that. If they don't care about, optimizing for costs and performance, we do. So our goal is really to set an industry standard for this very niche data set that everyone that uses G4 has access to for free. So, and we have some quite idealistic guys in our team. So we also wanted to make it really open source as well. We call that G4 Dataform community. It is a repo on GitHub and you can use it, adapt it, whatever. And since a couple of weeks, we have released G4 Dataform Premium, which is, a premium solution that will bring extra features, support, like expert support. We are basically 5 guys, and together with some other, maybe there are 5 or 10 others on the planet that have the same knowledge as we have. It's very niche, but I think there's value in this. So that's why we also decided to start a real business around it.
You mentioned there, Johan, that you've got some big companies using the core version. I'm curious just what the kind of typical customer is. So have you?
It's a good question. We are figuring that out at the moment as we speak.
That's always
we're
hard.
Still at the early phase. We're in a very early phase. So of course, the core version and especially community version, we don't even know who uses that, right?
Yeah.
We don't know, and that can be really big organization because typically they have their own data engineers just using a repo on GitHub and adapting, and you'll never hear from them again, right? So we don't know, but we think it's the good thing to do, to just provide it to the community.
Yeah. Do you think those companies, I know again, if you don't know who they are, you don't know this, but do you think that they're using it as like kind of foundational layer and then that they're building on top of that? So it's almost like to give them a jump start in a way.
That's the exact idea. Yeah. So for DBT, there's been a project around for a long time that's doing the same as we do, but it's only code. It's only the data models. So I would say for the digital analytics scene, especially organizations that don't have a dedicated data engineer, our solution with Core, which is not technically open source, but it's, you only have to give your email address to us, and that's the only thing. But then you can use the installer, and we do all the, the hard stuff, the configuration stuff, etc. That is really, unique to what we offer, and that's for free, right? So with the basic core version, you already have a great starting point to start analyzing, start connecting dashboards even to the data set. So no one needs to use Premium. I know it's a bad sales thing to say, but I really believe our core version is so good that you don't need Premium.
I suppose this might have been why Premium came to be in the first place. I don't know. But my question was going to be, you can abstract away the complexity of the setup and the flattening and the getting the data in there. But obviously a lot of the people who are going to be using this tool might just be in marketing tools. And to your own point, they might not have marketing teams, and they might not have a data engineer. I wonder what their reaction is post all of that happening and them going into Dataform and looking at it. Are they like, it works, but what the hell is this? Is that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not part of the idea around Premium. So you've got that support to help you figure out what you've now got, what power you've now got at your fingertips.
Indeed. So we give you an onboarding call, and we can actually configure it for you. It's all included in a premium plan, and we can even advise, consult, but also build custom models on top of your standard code, as we say. So we also in the code, the way the code is structured, we use folders, and we have core and custom. So everything you place in custom, we will never touch that, because the crazy thing about GA4 Dataform is if we update the product, you can go to the installer again. It will detect which version you have installed. It will say, hey, this one is old. I have a new one for you. Let me update it for you. And then we update the core files, but never the custom files. So you can safely, use the installer, and we handle all that stuff for you. So and we update to fix bugs, obviously, but also to add new features. We still do that with core version as well. So eventually the idea is we release premium features, and after an amount of time, some of those premium features will become standards, maybe even incorporated in the core version as well. But the big differentiator is for premium is you have access to us to support.
How far does that support go? So if you have somebody who say has no skills in this area, but they're a marketing person, they know what data they want, they know what they want to have in a dashboard, and they know that there's power in getting that export from GA4 into BigQuery and then doing something with it. will you create those end products for them? Will you create dashboards for them to use?
No.
So it's just the models and it's getting it.
Yeah. So we thought about that. If we would do that, we would become an agency.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
We don't want to become an agency. We worked at agencies. Some of us still work at agencies, like freelance. There's a reason we don't want to become an agency. No options. They're like, we are all freelancers. We enjoy that. Yeah, we can do custom stuff, but the custom stuff will be, and we also offer a custom plan, which is basically premium with, we can negotiate a tract based on a scope or a project. We will do that for a price. We can, that's how an agency also works, but we will only build models and offer build custom models. So the data transformation stuff, but we're not going to create a dashboard for you. That's for others to take care of. And what we also do is offer premium advice. So we can, so not premium, but custom advice. So we will take that very broadly. If you are interested in starting a data warehouse and you want to connect other marketing sources to it, then we can advise around that. But, and for the first premium clients, we are at the moment looking into building standard models for Google Ads, transfer, that kind of stuff. So the low-hanging fruit, so to say.
Yeah, because I guess where that question came from, and you've kind of answered it now, is I'm thinking of those people who they maybe know GA4 pretty well, they know Looker Studio, but the gap is in between the two. They don't really know what to do with those nested tables. So if you're somebody like that who's sitting on your own in an organization, you're the analytics person, you've got to figure all this stuff out. This could really help bridge that gap. So it's like, I know what I want at the end of it, and I know what's going into it. I just don't have the skills for that bit in the middle. They could use the core version. It wouldn't cost them any money. They get the nice, clean, business-ready tables that they can then set up with their own Looker Studio dashboards. And it just takes that bit in the middle, that kind of more kind of niche skill set, that specialist knowledge. So for those kind of marketers, it would be ideal for them.
Yeah. So, and if that is not, there's a possibility that's still too hard to do, because with the core version, you will get very clean base tables and some, aggregated session tables, but probably just not yet what you're looking for, or it's not aggregated enough, or, there's always custom questions from business owners that, like, the average marketer is not capable of answering with our base tables you will get with core. So in that case, and we're still thinking about that. We're really at the early phase of our company at the moment. We're thinking about, how can we provide place for partners, like build an ecosystem of partners around us that can handle those specific questions between the end product and what we deliver. There's a gap. I agree with that, but we are not here to fill that gap.
I mean, interestingly, we've probably worked with 3-4 clients that have come to us with core GA4 Dataform, and we've built custom aspects on top of it for them to ultimately build them dashboards and things like that. So that kind of it's kind of, I guess, happening behind the scenes where the people have probably
it's just not official yet. Then I guess
yes. Yeah, give me a ring when it becomes official.
I will get you, a badge, a partner badge.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
pay for it, but
yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting that people are, like you say, they're grabbing it, they're seeing the power and utility of it, but they're just not knowing how to take that next step to potentially add those custom bits or build the dashboards or know how to join whatever together.
I really believe this is, creating a new pizza for everyone. So also agencies can, if they are smart, they, like you do, they jump on this topic and they not build everything on their own like we did, but use us as a basis, or build on top of that, because there's still a gap. and that gap is not going to be served by us.
I wonder if it will be served by AI, which is my segue into something that I've noticed that I've been doing Dataform projects recently, and what has appeared within Dataform itself, which I didn't quite appreciate was going to appear, is the data engineering agent. I don't know if you've seen this, and I knew it was available in the pipeline section. You could get it to sort of doing pipelines, and I knew that was built on top of Dataform. But I didn't quite appreciate is inside of Dataform, it was editing my Dataform files and fiddling around with stuff. Have you seen that and played with that? And what's your kind of experience with it?
I've not seen it myself yet, because at GA4 Dataform, I'm focusing more on the marketing side now, but the other guys probably have. But in general, I think we're at a stage where companies are just, integrating AI in everything. And there will be a point that they will realize, and users also realize that a lot. In some parts of, you don't want to have it, because especially Dataform, you don't want an agent, an autonomous agent changing configuration stuff without you knowing it. That's not something I would want. I want to have control there. And yes, if I have a question, it's nice to have a place where I can ask it, but I don't trust the quality of it yet. And especially Google's, they have proved over and over again that just try the Gemini and Google Sheets. You want to jump out of a window. It's not for a simple sum of one column or so, but it doesn't make sense yet. It's too early. Maybe there will be a point when it's good enough, but it's not now. So I agree. I don't like it at this moment.
What about a GA for Dataform MCP server? Have you thought about that, or maybe even somebody's built one?
Well, we're focusing on the basics first before we. So what we're more looking at first is, because you asked who is your audience basically, and one of those is obviously agencies as well, right? So we have brands that can have multiple GA4 properties running. So we still we are in the process of building multi-property support, but we also we are looking into building a user interface for agencies to manage multiple installations of GA4 Dataform, that kind of stuff. So to do stuff in bulk, that's things we are looking into now, rather than what you are suggesting.
I've built one, not for GA4 Dataform, but I've done a Dataform one. Dataform documentation MCP.
Cool.
So you can have that, Johan, if you want.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
How do you balance the, I was kind of interested to, because you even said this very honestly earlier, you said you think everybody can just use the core version. So how do you balance? Because obviously you do have the premium features, and you presumably
we want to get rich.
You do, exactly. Yeah. You do want to get rich. So how do you, how are you finding that balance? So do you find that easy? And even amongst the five of you, do you feel like there's a little bit, is it all quite balanced in terms of how much of it you push towards the community versus how much of it is going to make you all rich and retire early?
We retire early. We're not young, so we have to be quick. I think we have a very unique team in the sense that we're all nerds. We've met at Superweek. It's basically one big nerd fest. I was the one that came with the idea, hey, there's value in this. Let's eventually ask money somewhere down the road. The other guys were just wanted to create an open source thing. So I'm the commercial guy here. That says a lot about our company, I guess. Also, we have like a motto, and that is don't be a dick. That's basically our strategy. Yes, we want to get rich. Yes, we want to, we really believe there is value, but not at the cost of everything. And we really believe everything we do on a day-to-day basis is because we are part of the community. That community is delivering value to us, goes both ways, And it's the right thing to do to give value back to the community. That's where we are very passionate about. So that's why we also wanted to offer an open source version. Also, because not everyone wants to log in with their Google account and trust us.
Yeah.
And also there's companies that don't want that. And it's just the good thing to do. But the real goal is to set an industry standard. And to do that, you cannot ask money for everything because no one will adopt.
I know you've kind of mentioned that you I don't think I've really heard what you do or don't do with sort of AI and LLMs. I've heard fairly negative conversations about them so far. I think jumping out of a window being one of them. But do you see other aspects of your daily life where you do find utility in them? And is it primarily in the admin and the automation and away from the technical side, or how do you square that?
I use it every day. So don't get me wrong. I'm not against. I use it for other stuff. So I use it for SQL code as well, by the way. But when we are developing stuff, we typically don't copy paste stuff from an LLM. Because we have the know-how to build it ourselves. We want it to be as good as possible. We don't release to be the first, to be fast. It has to be good and thoroughly tested. But I use it a lot for brainstorming. It's brilliant. I do mainly the marketing, sales sides. I think a lot about price, strategy, business. It's all new for me. And for me, that's very, very exciting to not do the basic analytics engineering stuff. I understand it and I do small things here and there, but I really chose to, in this company, so our company is called Superweek Labs, I chose to have another role. And that is really, for me personally, it's really refreshing. And I'm chatting for hours on a weekly basis. I'm probably chatting hours and hours with ChatGPT, sometimes others, just to test it.
Are you worried? I know this is maybe becoming a bit of a cliche question because everyone either is or isn't worried about whether AI is going to steal their living and take their job and make them redundant. You mentioned you don't think the data engineering agent is good enough yet. You don't think it's quite there where it's trustworthy. Are you concerned about how quickly it will get there and whether there'll be a day in the near term where somebody won't need something like GA for Dataform and they can just go to their LLM of choice and say, here's my credentials for my GA4 account, build me a bunch of dashboards that help me make good decisions. And it just goes away and does it.
So I'm not afraid at all. I'm more afraid of AI when it comes to ethical stuff. That's really something to worry about. I'm not afraid for my job to go away, because if it does, then I will do something else. It will hopefully excite me just as much. I'm very realistic because I'm not saving lives here. And eventually we will probably all pivot to doing stuff that AI cannot replace. So if that's the case, I'm up for that.
Potato farmers and things like that.
Yeah, why not? Probably I will be happier.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So there's only stuff to gain there. I think that in the near future, at least, Gemini is not optimized to make your Google Cloud's bill decrease, right? So yes, it can help you. It can probably automate everything for you, but you will get crazy invoice from Google Cloud.
It'll optimize it.
Yeah, that's my idea, but I'm not sure. I'm just guessing like anyone else.
I know you said, just kind of steered it a little bit back away from AI, at least for a minute. I know you said you're focusing on you work on getting the basics right and making sure it's providing value and you want it to be kind of an industry standard. But have you thought about maybe expanding it beyond GA4 in the future so people could work with other data sources as well?
Yeah, so I mentioned the Google Ads, the native data transfer that's also built in, in BigQuery. there's the Google Search Console export, the bulk export. We are thinking about that. Those are the obvious ones. Then it becomes interesting because then you're really on the domain of the 5 trends and supermetrics of those of this world. And we don't want to do what they do because why would we? That makes no sense. But it is interesting to think about, okay, we make sure you can plug in everything from Airbytes or 5trend into our models. That is a possibility. Yeah. So we're working towards like modular code. Yeah, that's already what we're doing.
So if we really want to know what your plans are, we just need to look at what domains you've bought. It sounds like it's GA4 Dataform. If you've got all other stuff for Dataform, then we know that you're planning on expanding out.
Yeah, and the next week, 5trend will buy us. That's the end goal.
Well, listen, they're buying everybody, so you've got a good chance of getting rich after all.
I will sign up for that every year. It's I don't know. The getting rich is, who doesn't want to get rich? It's not a real goal for us. It's more about working together with a bunch of nerds.
Yeah,
it has been like utterly rewarding already. We're all doing this next to our normal jobs. So yeah.
Do you think the we're kind of joking a little bit about 5trend, but do you think if 5trend do buy DBT, do you think that could actually work in your favor? Because DBT will lose its kind of independent aspect then, and maybe that'll push more people towards Dataform, which could potentially be good for you.
I'm not sure. It will be really bad for DBT.
Mm-hmm.
That's no question about that. Because what I said, it's a very vibrant community movement. It being acquired by like an enterprise company that's probably going to close gate it. It's not a good thing. But also worked at, I worked at companies where they were not fans of Google. Let's put it in that way. And it's a big step for companies. So if they are going to use Dataform, they basically have to migrate everything to Google Cloud. That's what you're saying. And that is a very, very big hurdle for a lot of IT teams. So especially in enterprise, I would say the biggest part of the organizations are living in a Microsoft world. Some of them are living in an AWS world, and a very small part is living in a GCP world. And that is not changing just because DBT is acquired by another company. No, Dataform is only this in the cloud architecture.
Yeah.
No,
I wonder if it's a Dataform to a certain extent is an archetype of what a acquisition of DBT would look like, because obviously before Google bought Dataform, it had a Dataform core. You could open source it, you could install it where you wanted to, but slowly but surely it's just shrunk into being completely tightly integrated with BigQuery and not having any of that other stuff. So it feels like it's already happened once. DBT, like you say, it's the granddaddy of this stuff, isn't it? It's it released the manifesto in the first instance about why we should be doing data in this way and all of that stuff. So it does feel like it would be a shame.
And there will be someone forking DBT core, right? And
quickly.
And basically do what DBT does now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there'll be a gap for it again, won't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, I ask this every fortnight. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, because sometimes we've been having long talks about AI and the future of AI. But essentially it is, over the next sort of 2 or 3 years, where do you see things going? Could be industry, could be with AI, could be general trends. Like what do you think is the big changes that are coming our way over the next couple of years?
I don't think I'm thinking that much ahead, because it's
probably smart.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. If you look at the speed of the movement in the industry, it's almost unbearable. I just cannot imagine how it looks in 2 years. I can say stuff, but it doesn't make sense. So I really don't know. And I mean it when I say I really take it day by day, and I'm not married to Google or Dataform. I want to be agile. I even want to be vendor agnostic, which is hard to do if you have a product that's used for Dataform. but I'm on a personal level, I'm transitioning more into, I would say, an entrepreneur. I want to start businesses, and this is one of them. And other ones will be completely out of this data world. So if this is going nowhere or is going to be replaced, I will still be able to do business in some form. That's how I look at it.
That's a good answer and a good attitude to have, I think. Yeah. This is probably
very pragmatic.
Probably the only answer to this question that we don't have to look back on and see if it was right or not, because I think a lot of people, they do speculate, and I'm not knocking that. That's why we ask the question and we speculate as well. But I think you're right. It's impossible to know that it's changing so much at the moment that, it's not like 5 years ago you could have predicted what was going to happen in analytics 12 months later or 2 years later or whatever. But it's all changed now, and I don't think anybody really knows.
No, and if you look at what I worry about is, as I said, I come from a journalist background. That's the part I worry about.
Yeah,
we are almost at a point where there's no way to see if something is real or fake. That stuff is scary.
I mean, I feel. I think I was saying this. We had an old company sort of hackathon last week, and I was talking about Sora 2 with a couple of people.
Yeah.
And there was a few videos that had come out of that. I couldn't tell if they were real or not. And then it was a strange sensation for the rest of the day. Whenever I saw a video and things, there was just this bit in the back of my head saying, is this real? And that was pretty terrifying to think that is, especially as people are already being convinced by things that to many people would be ridiculous, when it looks almost indistinguishable or completely indistinguishable from real life. I mean, what the hell happened to them?
Indeed. So that's like, I think in 2 years we could be living in a Black Mirror episode,
Or caves.
But let's not end this podcast with...
Or we could be living in a utopia. That's the positive way to end it.
That's the positive way, yeah. All thanks to GA4 Dataform.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, Johan, thank you very much again for coming back on and updating us on what you're up to these days. And maybe in another 75 or so episodes, we'll bring you on and you'll have the next company that you've set up, and we can talk to you about that.
It was my pleasure. And next time I will send my AI agent.
Yes, exactly. We all will. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks again, Johan.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
That's it for this week's episode of the Measure Pod. We hope you enjoyed it and picked up something useful along the way. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on so you don't miss future episodes.
And if you're enjoying the show, we'd really appreciate it if you left us a quick review. It really helps more people discover the pod and keeps us motivated to bring back more. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.